So our quick tip for today is if you see someone's looking for a vendor on Facebook or anywhere, instead of just responding in the comment, take a screenshot of a review. That screenshot is going to show up. It's going to be more noticeable for people and you're going to be seen. So
good tip.
This is the Top Secret Wedding Podcast, where we share top secret tips to help you take your wedding game to the next level.
I'm Annika, and I'm a wedding coordinator, enthusiast, and venue manager for one of the best venues in Idaho.
I'm Chris, and I'm a DJ, master of ceremonies, and all-around lover of weddings.
We're on a mission to improve weddings and wedding professionals everywhere.
Okay, so today we are interviewing, it was really tough to book her because she's very busy, but we are interviewing a world famous, I don't know what to call you.
World famous.
Well, okay, so we're going to interview Annika, which is really exciting. We want you to get to know her, and actually, frankly, there were a few things that I didn't know about you that we're going to talk about, so I'm kind of excited for this.
Awesome. I'm excited too.
Good. All right. So where are you from?
So I actually grew up in Austin, Texas.
Okay.
So love Austin. Lived there pretty much my whole life. And then I moved away from Texas when I went off to college.
Gotcha.
So,
you went to?
I went to BYU, Idaho.
Okay.
Up in Idaho. So
what did you study there?
Yeah. So I studied recreation management.
Okay.
So
what were you hoping to get into?
So kind of a funny story, actually. Let me tell you how I found recreation management. Yeah. When I went off to college, I was originally studying exercise physiology. Super interested in that. However, the classes were horrible.
Okay.
It was a lot of hard work. Not that I'm afraid of hard work, but it was a lot of work.
It wasn't the kind of hard work you wanted.
Yeah, you want to find what lights your fire. So I was actually on a trip in Australia and New Zealand for a month.
Wow.
And I was taking my classes online for exercise phys. And I just remember not hating life, but there's so much more to life than all this studying. And it just wasn't what lit my fire, Yeah. And on one of the days in New Zealand, I met this guy. His name was Kevin. He'll always stick in my mind. But he just lived on this little island in New Zealand with his sheep. And he did kayaking tours. And
sweet.
I kid you not, this guy was the happiest guy I've ever met. And I was just like, dude, I'm doing something wrong. Like, I am dreading all this. And this guy is so happy and just with where he is. So that kind of got me looking into, well, what lights my fire? Like, what is going to bring me the most happiness? And I found recreation management, which primarily is just the easiest way I explain it is whatever people do in their downtime. So whether that's like commercial recreation or events or community like parks and rec, all of that stuff. So with that, I went towards the event emphasis of it. And I did my internship with the city of Provo in Utah on their... You didn't know that?
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, so I was on their special events team. So I did all of the community events. I did it during fall. So it was really fun because we did like a Halloween carnival, breakfast with Santa, Christmas market, like all of these community events. Fell in love with community events. So that's kind of what I studied. I, of course, as a little girl, I always wanted to do weddings, but found community events, fell in love with it. And then life brought me back to weddings, and now I work with weddings and special events.
Okay, so when you were in Provo, had you graduated yet?
It was my internship, so it was like my very last semester. Yeah, so I had already walked. I'd pretty much graduated.
Okay.
But
so tell me how you got involved in weddings.
Yeah, so a lot of it was because I've always had an interest in it, and I actually worked in other aspects of weddings while I was a student. So like I did 2 summers in catering for weddings.
Really?
I did. Okay. Yeah. Cool. Loved it. One of my favorite jobs of all time was working in catering. It was so fun.
What kind of food was it?
So I worked at a venue, and so the food would change all the time, but I worked at the same venue. I don't know if you're familiar with Thanksgiving Point in Utah. Yeah. So I worked with their catering team. So I did everything from corporate to weddings to everything. But that's kind of what got me like the little taste of weddings. Because as the catering team, you're seeing everything. You're not necessarily the vendor running it, but you're there, you're seeing it. And that's kind of what piqued my interest in it.
Okay.
So
you said you did a couple of different things with weddings before, like what your current position is, right? So anything else?
Primarily catering. I did help quite a few friends like plan their wedding out. I've always been a planner.
Yeah.
And so for me, it was always an interest. And whenever I had like, my sister's getting married or my friends are getting married, I just would help them bring their dream to life. So not anything as professional as that catering title, but
yeah.
That's
cool. So let's take you back to before you got into weddings, like in a professional capacity.
Mm-hmm.
What did you have any like, I mean, you said when you were a little girl, you always dreamed about being in weddings and all that stuff, but what did you think weddings were going to be like?
Yeah. So, I mean, all growing up, you think, I always use this example, but, J-Lo, wedding planner,
sure, yeah,
that's just what you think, the little headset and the clipboard. But even just everything from, the flowers to fluffing the dress to making sure the decorations are set. Like, I loved the whole idea of all of it, really.
Yeah.
So
now that you're in it, has that changed at all?
Has what changed?
Your outlook on what weddings are.
Oh, absolutely. Okay. Yeah. So, I mean, once you actually start working in the wedding industry, it is totally different than how J-Lo presents it in the wedding planner. But because it is so much more work than what I thought going in, the reward is tenfold what I think it would have been. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, I mean, it is a lot more hard work. There's a lot more of the nitty-gritty, non-glamorous side that we do. Yeah. But again, you put so much more of your heart and soul into it, and it's just that much more rewarding.
What's been the most surprising thing that you didn't anticipate?
Most surprising is... Let me think on that for just a second. Okay. So I think the most surprising is, I feel like in my mind, it was always like, oh, well, wedding days, like, it's all happy and blissful and it's the most wonderful day of this couple's life.
Right.
It surprises me how many times other people's life and opinions get in the way. So, like, the amount of times I've had to deal with family drama on wedding day, in my mind, I'm like, oh, well, it's so-and-so's wedding. Like, just put it aside. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
But, like, the amount of, like, okay, we're going to run a ceremony rehearsal, but these parents can't stand each other and they cannot be in the same room. Like, for me, I'm like, oh, just put it away. Like, it doesn't matter.
Right.
But, just working with everyone's expectations has been very surprising.
Yeah.
So
I had a client call me the other day, and they were thinking about hiring us, and they said, before we hire you, one of the groom's family members is really pushy.
Mm-hmm.
Can you help us deal with that? Yeah, okay, we can. So.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it is surprising. It's really surprising. Okay, so what do you do now? What is your position in the wedding industry now?
Yeah, so now I work as a venue manager. So I primarily work to manage the LaBelle Lake venue.
Okay.
Yep.
And what does that entail?
So it entails everything from training my staff to make sure that, they are up to our standard, to booking weddings, dealing with the contracts, signings, all of that stuff, scheduling weddings, but also all of the background stuff like our grounds crew for setup and takedown and our parking slots. And we offer tomahawk throwing. So like getting all of that scheduled, cool. It's cool,
Yeah.
But also working with my grounds manager to make sure that the grounds are up to par. It's really a lot of overseeing that all the other details are taken care of.
Gotcha.
So.
Okay. Interesting. So, so as you've gone through there's probably been some hurdles you've had to overcome, some things that you've had to learn. Is there anything that sticks out to you that you're like, wish I wouldn't have done that, or I should have learned this sooner?
Oh, absolutely. I think everyone, we're all human. We all have our things that we learn. Two things that just hit me in the face is, one, I had to learn from the hard way how to set my own boundaries. I'm the worst at setting boundaries. I always joke that I'm a workaholic, so I've been working on like setting my work and personal life boundaries, but that's still a work in.
That's tricky.
But setting boundaries with clients, I think working in the wedding industry, you sit there and you're like, oh, like this is my client. I want them to have the best day imaginable.
Right.
I'm going to do whatever's needed. You want to do that, but you also have to respect yourself and make boundaries.
Yeah, especially when you're starting out. It's hard to do that.
Exactly. It's so hard because you want to impress. So I know I've had a couple of clients where I want to impress. I want to make it their best day ever. And so I will start to sacrifice my boundaries. And I've learned the hard way not to do that.
Yeah.
But you can still wow them while respecting your boundaries.
True.
So that's been a big one that I've had to learn. The other one is, it just left my head. What was it? Oh, I don't remember.
We can come back.
It'll probably come back to me.
So what's your favorite part of wedding day?
It's gonna sound cheesy,
okay,
but my favorite part is the ceremony. Like, I feel like maybe I'm just an emotional girl.
Sure.
But no matter how many ceremonies I witness, I almost always get teary-eyed.
Yeah.
Like, you've been with this couple from the start, not the very start, but, from when they book to when they start planning, and then seeing their moment come together of finally walking down the aisle, and, they just exchange the sweetest vows, and I always get teary-eyed.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
That's a good one. So, are there any things that you've seen people do during ceremonies that you've particularly liked?
Yeah. So, there's always some trends that come and go that I think are fun, but I adore when I'm very traditional. So I adore when they get a lot more of the family involved, and it's not just like, oh, we're here, it's casual, we're just going to do it.
Yeah.
I love when they, have like the grandparents escorted to their seats. For me, that's just a respect thing, and I adore when that happens. I love too when they take a moment to just to take in the moment. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I feel like so many times ceremonies just get so rushed, and it's like, oh, we're just doing this. But like, really, that's what the whole day is about. That's why you're there. So just take a moment and
take your time.
Exactly. Breathe through it.
Nobody's going anywhere.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So
I like that. That's good. So what are your wedding pet peeves?
My wedding pet peeves.
Things that either vendors do or couples do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So some of my pet peeves are, well, okay, so this isn't as big, but with our LaBelle Lake venue, like if you have a scheduled activity, for ours it's tomahawk throwing.
Yeah.
I hate when people do scheduled activities during dinner.
Yeah.
Again, you want to take in the moment, and as soon as you open up activities, you're just going to lose everybody.
Yeah.
And, you either lose everyone, or in that moment, nobody's doing those activities because they want to eat. Like,
they're hungry.
They want to eat, I also am a big advocate for just delegating as much as you can to vendors. And so one example would be having an MC. Yeah. For me, it's always kind of awkward if you get an MC who they don't really know what they're doing, and they're like, oh, well, hey guys, we're going to do this now.
Yeah.
Like, okay, that's kind of awkward. Yeah. So I just love when the couples are able to delegate as much as they can to vendors or someone who has a little bit of experience in that field.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, that's good. Okay, so what What are some accomplishments that you're proud of?
Some-
Go ahead and brag a little bit.
brag a little
What are
bit.
you proud that you've done in the wedding industry?
In the wedding industry, I'm very proud of how many weddings I have worked. I've definitely done hundreds of weddings now, and I feel like I have grown a lot. From when I started at LaBelle Lake, it was a very new venue, and so from when I started, it was a lot of just.
How long after they opened did you
I
join?
think it was a year.
Okay.
So I think they'd been open a year, and then I joined. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure it was a year.
That sounds about right.
I think so. But so it really was, the owners of the venue have done an amazing job of making it the venue.
Yeah.
But I really do feel like when they brought me in, it was kind of mine to blend into this greater vision. They were doing an amazing job, but in my time there, I was able to, one, really get a grasp on how actual weddings work, because again, I didn't have that much experience.
Sure.
But in my time there, I feel like it's just I've helped take it to the next level. I've implemented so many different things, like we do a details meeting with our brides and grooms.
Yeah.
Before that, it was just like, hey, you've rented the space. Here it is.
Here we
And
go.
I know there are venues like that, but I do strive for the higher experience.
Yeah, I think you've learned a
know.
lot of processes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, because that can make or break a venue.
I agree. So
I think you've done a good job with bringing that.
mhm. With that as well, I've also brought a lot of ideas. One of my biggest accomplishments is I kept urging the owners, like, we need to do a riverfront ceremony site.
Yeah,
we need to do a riverfront ceremony site. And, that has now come to fruition. And with that, I'd say 98% of our ceremonies are there.
Yeah.
And we've even upped a lot of our bookings because that's just something so unique that we offer. Another thing is I've implemented our internship program. It's like my pride and joy.
Yeah.
But again, just trying to bring that value not only to us as the venue, but to the community. I'm all about just being a part of the community and taking your experience and, helping other people learn. And, so I think our internship program I'm biased, but I think it's pretty rad.
I think it's pretty good,
So.
honestly. And most of the interns that you bring in, the ones that stick around, they're really good.
Yeah. Well, and I think too, just given, we're over here in Eastern Idaho, and it just gives such an opportunity for anyone in this region that wants to learn about venues.
Yeah. Because it's one of the, they're getting world-class service. Your clients are getting world-class service here in
Mhm.
Eastern Idaho, which for
Exactly.
many people doesn't exist in their minds. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh,
And so
absolutely.
having that opportunity for, college kids to come, and
Yeah.
it's pretty cool.
Yeah. Well, yeah. And I think too, just, in Eastern Idaho, we do get a little stuck in the thought of like, oh, it's just Eastern Idaho. This is fine.
Yeah.
But a lot of the students that we work with, they're not going to be staying in Eastern Idaho. So it's preparing them for the bigger city
real world.
mentality. Yeah. Basically the real world,
Yeah.
But
That's cool. Well, I think you've done a really good job at LaBelle.
thank you.
And I like I said, it's one of the best venues in the area. It definitely has it's got really cool features, of course, right?
For sure. Yeah.
But beyond that, the service that I see clients get at LaBelle is far and above most other venues,
Thank you.
which I think is attributed to you.
Thank you. We strive for it. We
You did a
try.
good job.
But
Okay, so some rapid fire questions that I did not say.
okay.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay, you ready?
I'm ready.
We're going to try and do as many as we can in 30 seconds.
Okay.
We'll start easy. Favorite color?
Pink.
Okay. Favorite song played at a wedding?
Oh, I'm gonna space the name on it, but it's oh goodness. I always say, it's one I always say for a recessional. I don't remember.
You Are the Best Thing?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
I love that one.
Least favorite song played at a wedding?
Unpopular opinion, but I think Single Ladies is
Okay,
just
I'm
a
with
little overkill.
Favorite food that you've had at a wedding?
Ooh. I'm always a sucker for lemon chicken. If it's like a good
Okay.
lemon chicken,
Sure.
I just want good food.
Good. Favorite movie?
Oh, Secret Life of Walter Mitty.
Ooh, that's a good one. Celebrity crush.
Chris Hemsworth all day, every day.
Me too, a little bit. Okay, well, that is Annika, and she's fantastic. If they want more info about you, is there anywhere they can go to get more info about you? We'll have to set that up.
We'll have to set that up. Yeah,
all
that's a good point.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you for letting me
Thank
interview you.
Yeah.
I learned some interesting things about you, and we'll see you guys next time.
See you next time.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Top Secret Wedding Podcast.
Subscribe, rate, and review us, and we'll see you next time.